Hey everyone, I'm Jonathan from Motorcycology. Welcome to the channel. If you're a new viewer, welcome. And if you're a returning viewer, as always, welcome back, and your support is greatly appreciated. So in today's video, it's going to be a deconstruction of these old rusty looking calipers that have dirty, grimy insides, including the pistons, the seals, and other dirt. So I'm going to deconstruct those brake calipers, take out the pistons, get the rust off the calipers, repaint them, and get them ready to put in the new seals and pistons and get them all ready to go. So the first video I'm going to call part one. It's the deconstruction of them. The second video, which is coming up and probably available right now as you're watching this, is part two, where I've got the refurbished painted calipers, and I'm going to put in the seals and pistons and show you guys how to do that as well, and wrap up the video as far as that's concerned. So stick around, two-part video only because of the length, and let's see how this particular project goes. So here are the front brake calipers for the C3 Corvette. I'm going to rebuild them, or at least try to rebuild them, not because it's the best thing to necessarily do, but these replacement parts are very expensive in comparison to just rebuilding them. So these are several $100s each, plus the core deposit. So I'm going to have a look at these to see if they're worth rebuilding, and I'm going to pull them apart. But just to show you something here. So these are super heavy. So these calipers are actually in two parts, and they're connected with these bolts. This caliper actually looks in pretty good shape compared to the other one, so I'm going to bring the other one over and check that out. This one here looks a little bit rougher inside. It may not be in bad shape, but I'm going to check that out first and see what it's like. So as mentioned, these come in two parts, which are bolted together with this big bolt here, and the pads kind of hang on this pin here, which that should have a cotter pin on it, but they've got a bent nail. So another thing I want to show you is these things are pretty big. That's 11 inches from there and 6 inches that way. So that's over 11 inches. Just about 11 inches. And then from here, it's at least 6 inches wide. So these are pretty big items. And another thing, they're heavy too. So I'm going to use this suitcase scale and just see how heavy this thing is. So with that, we're looking at, wow, 14 pounds. Check that again. There you go, 13 pounds. That's pretty heavy for this one thing here. So before I get started, I'm going to put some penetrant in there. This is the brake bleeding valve there. And we'll take this thing off too. So I'm going to spray a bit of penetrant down here. take this pin out like so, and these pads will just slide out. And generally speaking, they're in pretty good shape, but I'm going to get new ones anyway. So once this penetrant seeps in, we'll try and split this thing in half. Alright, now that we've done the penetrating oil on these bolts, I'm going to see if I can get these ones open. So the size for that one is 13/16, so we'll try that out. And I have no guarantee that it's going to loosen up. Nope. So I'm going to try and remove this with the impact wrench. Come down and try it again after a while. So in a lot of cases, you can do this when the caliper is still on the car, and I didn't have the option in my case. It makes it a little bit easier to get those caliper bolts, or those two bolts that are holding the clamshell calipers together. So, you know, if you can, see if you can loosen them when you have it on the car. Otherwise, you're going to be in the same situation as I am here. Not impossible, but a little bit more difficult. All right, we're going to let the penetrant work and then come back and try it again. All right, it's been a couple days since I put the penetrant on there, and I'm just going to continue to try and get these bolts out. I know this one is working a little bit, so let's get that one out. There's that one. The bolt's in relatively good shape, except for the rest on the outside. That's pretty good. Over for this side. There we go. And there's that bolt, which looks pretty good. So both the bolts are fine. And now that these are open, you'll see a few areas like O-rings and stuff like that. This is the bad side, which is totally seized up here. Well, that one isn't. A little bit stiff. Anyway, not good enough, I guess. Here's the exploded view. So this is a caliper, complete, stuck together. This is the one that has been opened up. These are the bolts, and inside you have two parts. So the actual brake pistons are in here, and this one is in worse shape than this one, I believe, or at least this side. So you've got a few O-rings. So the front calipers have two O-rings in them, one there and the other one there, and that's just to keep the brake fluid out of this crack here. So we'll keep these things. The next part is getting these pistons out, and in order to do it properly, you've got to have a seal removal tool. I think helps the best. And also, if you can squeeze out any of the brake fluid, that helps as well. So I'm going to try and squeeze out the brake fluid by depressing these into the caliper. So make sure that you have a cloth close by, and let's see what happens if I can press these in. Yeah, so yeah, it pops out. So as I mentioned before, why a lot of people would rebuild these calipers is they're fairly expensive per part. So you can buy them completely remanufactured with the brake pistons in already. And if they are called fully loaded, that generally means they have the brake pads in them as well. However, before I go down that route, I want to see if I can redo these myself and save a few $100s. The actual core looks pretty good, so it's just about replacing the seals in there. So I'm going to pry these off right now. This is what I would recommend. It's a seal removal tool, and you just have to use one of these parts to go under the edge here and just kind of lift it up. So I'm going to give that a try here. So it just takes that cover off really easily, and then this just pops off like so. So what you get here is a metal top and some rubber in there, and these rubbers act as seals, obviously. So looking at that, that doesn't look too bad. It's not worn out or anything like that. Let's get the other one off. So once again, you grab this thing and you put it down in to the crack here. Let me get a close up. All right. So getting this guy in here, that one seems to work best. There we go. It just pops it out. And then easy to get out just with your hands. That one looks in a little bit rougher shape. And inside, that's a total disaster in there. So to get the pistons out, you can just pull them out generally. There's the piston and the spring. Put that aside, and you can see down into the cavity of one half of the caliper. There is some dirt in there, so it'll be interesting to see what it's like in there. Don't know if I can get this one out. I'm going to use a screwdriver to elevate it out. And almost out. There we go. So the spring is here, and this nasty looking caliper piston is here. But you know what? I think it'll clean up okay. And then looking down in here, you can see a lot of old brake fluid in there. And I'm just going to dump that, and I'll be back. So not too sure how this will clean up, and I don't know if I'm going to bother. I'm going to probably order a rebuild kit that'll have new pistons in it and new seal here, which these days I think they're putting in O-rings opposed to these type as well. And more information on the calipers. So this is a cast iron caliper, but it has stainless steel inserts in them, so they seem pretty good. I'm going to clean those things out, and then you can just do a light sanding with a very fine emery cloth, and you'll be good to go in that area. So let's pop out these ones and see what those are like. To keep everything organized, I'm going to stick everything from this caliper in one bag and put that aside. Little O-ring. Keep these things in there too, I guess. Stick that one aside. All right, let's check out this one. I want to depress these and get the brake fluid out of there if possible. It's stuck. That's pretty good. This one is stuck right now. Let's see if this helps. There we go. Unstuck. All right, let's pop these ones out. Yuck. That is in rough shape there. Just taking the entire thing off with it. That one came out pretty well. Stuff this in here, soak up some of the brake fluid, and let's do this one as well. There we go. Pops off. This guy should come out pretty easy. There we go. And there's a bunch of brake fluid in there. I'm just going to put one of these in to soak it up. And we'll be back to check it out. So as I was talking about the sleeves, so the back is cast iron, and you can actually see some rust down here, which I'll scrape out, but you can also see the stainless steel sleeve in there. And I guess you could pop those out, but I'm not going to. What I want to do is clean out all the stuff in the bottom there and get that one all cleaned up. And we still have to do that one over here, right there. So let's take this one apart. Put some things away here. And put that up here. This one here is in totally different shape, you guys. It actually looks like it's all right in there. But you know what? If I'm going to fix one, I might as well do them both at the same time. So let's get these things off. These can just come out. Don't need two on them normally. Brake pads are barely worn, but they will be getting replaced as well. Next, we've got to split these things, and once again, it's these big bolts here, which you could loosen when these were on the car, but I didn't, based on doing other work. So we'll get those things off right now. So we're working on the other caliper here, and I've let these things sit. I've also got them mostly loosened, so let's take this apart. I want to clean up all this stuff. So now I have these apart. I want to keep these two sides together and these two sides together out of the way. Pop these ones out. The seal. Is that one out? There's that one out with the spring. In here you can see all the brake fluid. Suck that one out. There we go. Seals are out. Get these guys out. That one out. And that one out. Put in some shop towel. As with all my other stuff, I'm going to pile it all into a baggie. Save these. I have to clean these up and see if I need any new ones or not. So here's both halves of one of the calipers for the Corvette. So the next job for me is going to be wire brushing this stuff down to the metal and preparing that, and also buying some new parts too. So I'm going to use this parts cleaner here to get this done and stick the two caliper parts in here. And I'm only doing these two to start off with because I don't want to get them mixed up. So I'm going to keep the two halves together and do that. I've used this product a lot, so I'm going to try and use it for the calipers in here, and I'm just going to mix it with water and let that soak. So I'll get set up and let's do that. I'm going to use a parts cleaner brush and a couple toothbrushes, and hopefully that'll help. I've also got these things. I'm going to try and clean them up, although I have ordered a refurbishing kit with new pistons, but nevertheless I'm going to clean these and see how they turn out. Get these things out of here. Dump a good amount of this in. Add some water. I'm going to let this stuff soak for a bit as I try and get some of the surface stuff off. So you can tell already getting a whole bunch of grime off of it. Super, super quick. You want to make sure you get it as clean as possible. Five 2273, and it's a Delco caliper. Going to dump these in. So this one looks pretty corroded around here. Not too sure what's going on here. It's got some blue silicone on it. It's kind of weird. This thing kind of faces up that way, if you're ever wondering. So I did a little work on trying to figure out what that blue stuff is. It's silicone RTV. So what they say with this particular piston, on models that are 1978 and later, before putting the pistons back into the caliper, to apply a bead of RTV to the boot grooves in the pistons. So that's what I was highlighting there, those boot grooves. In my case, it's a 1977 or earlier. I'm not going to reinstall that with RTV. I think it's optional if you want to do it, for those of you out there. Let's see if this little pick can get this off. Yep. Whoops. There we go. Seals off. That's your actual piston. A little bit of dirt down here still. This one's even more garbed up. It's really weird. Yeah, I'm glad I ordered a couple new pistons, or I think 4 new pistons. We'll see when they come in. These are worth cleaning and saving. They're about $9 a piece. These are in pretty good shape. No big deal with those. So here's kind of the rinsed off, degreased part. It looks all right. We're going to give it a little bit more cleaning and then painting it and getting it back together. We'll put these in. And this is the second front set. They don't seem quite as bad as the other ones. So this was the set that I wasn't too sure if I was going to do, but makes sense to do it. And all the pistons and seals and pins for that caliper set. And I'm going to clean this and then we'll be done with the cleaning. So here we are with both of the calipers broken in half. Everything is cleaned. I'm going to work at getting some of this corrosion or surface rust off, and then these should be good to go. And right now I'm just waiting for the rebuild kits to arrive, and until then I'm going to get these things done. They're looking much cleaner inside and they should be good to go. So here's one that I've done the wire brushing on, and I'll show you that as well. Got rid of most of the rust. This has also been wiped down with acetone, so it should be good to spray. I'm just going to tape up these holes here so I don't get any paint in there. And here's the difference between same part. This one is cleaned up, ready to go, and this one still needs to be wire brushed. So significantly better as far as looks. And we'll see how it looks when it's painted up. Just going to tape up some areas here before I paint. Now you need to get a super sharp knife here, so I'm just going to break this off. There we go. And let's carve around all this stuff here. This is obviously fast time. It's 4 times normal speed. And I'm just taping up all surfaces that I don't want the caliper paint to get into, and that would include both sides of the clamshell and also the bore within the caliper where the piston goes. So I'm doing this for each one of these things prior to painting. So it's the same process, and once that's done, I'm going to plug the holes and we should be good to go. All right, these should fit in here, no problem. Perfect. See if any on the other side. Yep. Let's pop one in here. All right, we're going to take this outside and give it a quick paint and see how it goes. This is the paint that I'm going to use, high temperature caliper paint, real red. So I'm going to get on with painting this thing right now. So with this, you want to put on 2 light coats and then 1 medium coat, and then you're done. So this is the light coat. Okay, we'll let this set up in about a half an hour and come back for the next coat. So I just want to show how this rusty thing here can be wire brushed down to decent metal. So I'm just using an angle grinder on an air hose and this wheel for the majority of it. So you can see here it's starting to come off okay. Once I get most of the surface rust off, then I wipe it down with acetone and then spray paint it. So I'm going to continue getting this thing down and then I'll wipe it down with acetone and take it from there. So before taping up the caliper for paint, I'm going to use some acetone on it, and it just helps clean off any dust, any rust dust. So it's pretty simple. You just kind of soak a shop towel here, grab the caliper part, and just give it a good wipe down. And you can see the residue that comes off there. Kind of like the leftover residue. And acetone, just like lacquer thinner, evaporates super quickly, so it's a great thing to use to prepare your metal for paint. Overall, these caliper parts, they came together better than I thought they would. As far as the final look after just wire brushing them down is pretty decent. It's almost like it's a refurbished casting, so it looks good. Happy with it. They've come a long way in a very short period of time. Can't wait until the stuff comes in and I can rebuild them. All right, time to take it out to paint. Okay, here we go. We're going to paint this up. Let that dry. That is the first light coat. So there's got to be another light coat and then a medium, and we're done. First coat on this one. Well, here's where we are with the brake calipers. They are all painted and I'm just waiting for the new replacement parts to come in, and then I'll redo it. But overall, the cleaning and painting of these things made a big difference. I'm still on the fence whether or not I like the color, but at this point it doesn't really matter to me. They came out looking pretty good. They're nice and clean and ready to go for the new stuff. So we'll update you once I get the new stuff in, which is due in a day or two. Hey everyone, that concludes what I'm going to say is part one of this video. I've done the caliper refresh as far as taking them apart, getting the rust off it, cleaning them up, and then also painting them and getting them ready to put in the new parts and rebuild them. So I've got everything filmed at this point and I'm just putting it together, and it looks like it's going to be a longer video, so I've broken it down into two parts. So the first part is all about taking the calipers apart and then getting them painted and refreshed, getting all the parts together and getting it ready to do the rebuild. So the second video, which is coming up right after this and hopefully have it posted at the same time as this one, is the rebuilding of the calipers. I had a couple things happen on this video which hadn't happened to me before when I was recording. I actually had done the complete rebuild, and when I went to look at the videos to edit it, they were all super blurry. So I decided that I would redo them. So what you're going to see in the second part is the rebuild of a complete caliper, and that includes putting in the seals and the pistons and the entire thing. So it's still just as legitimate. Stick around for that video, which is following this video. And once again, thanks so much for your support and sticking around watching this video. So we'll catch you in part 2 of this video coming up really, really soon.